The Digital Circus hasn't aired its finale yet, but there are already dramas and some cancellations. Glitch recently released a statement here about some screenings that are being shut down and cancelled due to censorship issues and also some logistical issues. And this ends up showing us that it's not that easy, man, to deal with the Digital Circus. Especially because it has a kind of strange stigma. A lot of people believe it's purely a children's animation because of its video game aesthetic and colorful things. But we know, we watched it, we saw that it goes way beyond that. In fact, it deals with very adult themes. And if you're a minor watching Circo Digital, you really should stay away from it. And since Glitch has released some official statements here, these cases of censorship pretty much show what it is and even themes that might appear in this last episode that's going to end the whole saga. And my friend, yes, I know there are some things here that are just theories, but man, this has kind of been confirmed by accident. That's what I'm going to talk about right now. Guys, ever since we watched episode 8, a lot of things have been implied in our minds because of the ending of the amazing Digital Circus. One of them is the question about whether everyone inside the Digital Circus is basically dead or not. And at the same time, there's also that situation where many can't deal with their own appearance and existence. When we stop to read, for example, the ending of the amazing Digital Circus and remember that the characters' traumas involve, for example, very sensitive situations, you can understand that some countries would practically not show the Digital Circus movie. Man, they say exactly that some regions of the world are basically refusing to distribute Digital Circus because of some censorship laws. And of course, one thing that's very common when dealing with this is that certain productions are basically altered while they're still in development. I don't know if you know these stories, but man, there are places where the censorship is so heavy that the character practically changes shape. Here's an example. Sandy Cheeks from SpongeBob practically gets a dress when she appears without her astronaut suit underwater. Man, this is one of the weirdest things, but it happens. So I have to tell you, man, it's a good thing you're in Brazil because Brazil is an extremely hypocritical country when it comes to censorship. We have, for example, the Carnival Parade, which is rated for all ages, and of course, Woody Woodpecker, which gets a 12 or 14 plus rating. I remember this meme and it's so true. But yeah, things like this happen in our country. And the thing is, man, when it comes to movie distribution, we don't have this kind of problem in Brazil. But many of the themes that were reported as off-limits for the characters in Digital Circus and what's going to be in this finale give us a certain idea of what to expect from the ending of the circus. We know Digital Circus has already gone way beyond the limit with several very sensitive themes and topics here. I really like to remember, for example, the torture scene that Kane put all the players of Digital Circus through. Literally, we have a scene of Ragatha's mother throwing knives at her own body, which suggests that it's something that happened in real life, and even into her own eye. Man, this is something that would hardly go unnoticed on TV nowadays. If Digital Circus, I don't know, aired on TV Globinho, this would definitely be cut, or it would probably lead to some action against Rede Globo for showing this, because it's a pretty intense scene. In this kind of case, many movie theaters, for example, would already rate this scene much higher. In Brazil, I didn't see any kind of age rating issue. Also, man, it's not being distributed as a real movie. It's more like a special event. And since it was categorized like that, man, the responsibility kind of falls more on the parents who end up taking their kids to this kind of screening, okay? Because if it were distributed as a real movie, then man, it would have to be approved, go through unseen. There's a whole process here, I'll tell you. It's really annoying. It's very bureaucratic having to talk to lawyers, copyright lawyers, distribution lawyers. It's an extremely bureaucratic thing. But, as we already know, many of the scenes that are also causing problems for the end of the circus are here, right? In these scenes here. And if we saw, for example, those tortures, man, the end of the circus suggests that maybe these scenes will also be repeated at the end. We're not just seeing the players' fears, we're going to see what really happened. It could be shown graphically right in our faces, but it could also just be the characters describing it. And even so, that's already subject to censorship. In the case of Ragatha, I think it's very brutal. I don't know if they'd have the courage to animate this here to show Ragatha's reasons for not wanting to go back to the circus world. Because we know that the Digital Circus has that two-way street. There are players who might want to leave the circus, but they wanted to leave because of Caim, who was there making their lives miserable. But there's also that question, do they have anywhere to go back home to? In Ragatha's case, I imagine not. But then, man, besides that, we have other scenes that are more complicated to deal with at the end of the circus. In this case, it's Gangle and Zubo themselves. Gangle is a character we've theorized might have suffered a certain accident. That fear came up again at the end of the last episode. A truck runs her over. And then we start thinking, man, does this really have anything to do with what happened to her in real life? I don't think so. Why? At the end of the CLT episode, she also ended up getting run over in the Digital Circus. This could be an explanation, for example, of how she might have gone into a certain coma and her mind was uploaded to the network so she could enter the circus. Alright, this would be a very ambiguous ending for her, but there's also that other theory that Jax committed crimes in real life and in real life he ran over Gangle, even if they don't know about it, but they would have a connection in real life. We already know the circus story, right? Real-life characters may know each other, but won't recognize each other inside the circus until a certain trigger makes it possible for them to find out who they are, in the case of Kingo and Queenie, his wife. Now, talking about this damn rabbit here, would he really have done something in real life? Man, a lot of people suspect that. And this could be a topic that might have prevented a lot of what would have been the circus's conclusion. I can't say for sure, man. Because Glitch is being very meticulous in its statements. If she explains the type of censorship, she'll reveal what happened at the end of the Digital Circus, which she doesn't want to do. Because no one will want to get a spoiler like that because of censorship laws. But it's very unlikely that it's something graphic that's going to show up. To be honest, the theme of running people over happens very, very often inside the Digital Circus, and it's closely linked to Jax. But stop and think. Would this actually be something he did in the Digital Circus and would show up here again? We know that Jax did something really terrible in the circus. And this has been theorized for a long time, and since the last trailer ends up showing several scenes of everyone freaking out, except for Jax, because we don't see his eyes and we know he's the main focus of this last adventure. Literally, seriously. I've already told you all the close-ups here don't show Jax's eyes, because we know that when his eyes appear, he'll be abstracting. But we saw that in the teaser itself, there's Ribbit asking or saying, right, if they've ever done something they regret. This is so ambiguous that it could be about something she did that she regrets, or about something he did and she's asking if he regrets anything he's done. We know he did something pretty serious. The creator is saying that he did something pretty serious. All the scenes suggest that he did something terrible. But what is it that's so terrible that he did? Well, this alone is already enough to get censored in the Digital Circus, and I think that's terrible because we're left here waiting to see what will happen, and so far we don't know anything. Now, Zubo is a very problematic character and she's also one of the main targets of censorship, at least from what I understand. Why? She's a character whose whole context keeps making a transgender issue the character's main focus. She practically seems like a character created from the point of view of the creator of the Digital Circus, right? Both of their avatars are the same. And man, she has that thing where you can swap body parts to have the body the way you want. That makes it clear what the identity issue is about. Zubo herself already had a whole issue in the therapy episode, which made a lot of parents freak out because their kids were watching it. Because they realize it's a matter of gender identity of one's own appearance. So, she would also be a character who could raise a lot of issues for censoring the Digital Circus, and that's how it is. The Digital Circus, man, in order to attract a lot more people to the cinema, would need to be more open to all audiences. Man, I know it would be much easier to make everything for ages 21 and up in theaters. But man, cinema chains know that when a movie is released with a very restrictive age rating, there's a big chance the theater won't fill up. And that's a loss for them. Empty theaters don't make money. So they would want every possible censorship measure because of that. Besides, when it comes to government issues, there are many countries that won't let these topics go through. Man, Digital Circus is one of the most widely dubbed shows on YouTube in many different languages. But it's no use doing all the localization, even censorship for certain topics. Basically, they just want to erase it, and they want to erase the existence of these people too. I know it's a very sensitive topic, but that's exactly the main issue here. And since we're talking here about a project that came from a trans woman, man, you can be sure that any topic related to this, she would never want it to be, cut or censored. So, for people who are in those situations, pretty much the only thing you can do is hope that the world gets better. Because honestly, this is going to shatter everyone's expectations for anyone who might watch the Digital Circus. Now, I have to say that the hype for the finale is so big that even music videos are popping up here, especially here, focusing on the trio of Ribbit, Calfamo, and Jax. Of course, we don't know exactly why they fought and all that, but we have that theory that Ribbit and Calfamo might have worked inside the Digital Circus. That's a real possibility, but we don't know anything beyond that, because it's just rough drafts that were thrown around throughout some episodes. Even so, the hype is here. Yeah, man, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. If you want to know more about theories about the circus, check out my channel. I have more theories for you. Come check it out right now.